Hey there. This is a demonstration of a sales presentation for a snow and ice management proposal to a commercial prospect. As you watch this video, I would encourage you to make note of anything that stands out to you as something you may want to add or change in your presentations. I'm going to be referring to some notes, some written talking points during this presentation because I don't want to miss anything. So I may not be looking into the camera as much as I would if this was an actual live presentation with a real client. Okay, and I just want to say that up front. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate you all taking the time out and the chance to just to get to know each other a little bit more. Mark, thank you so much for setting up this meeting. I really enjoyed meeting a couple weeks ago and our time together. Larry, good to see you again. Our walkthrough last week was really great with my ops team. Good opportunity to do some Q&A and just see the property from your perspective. So really appreciate you taking the time out for that. Susan and Bill, it's a pleasure to meet both of you. Hopefully we can meet in person someday. And I just wanted to ask, is there anyone else on the meeting here, maybe sitting next to you in the room or calling in that we don't see on the screen? No? We're good? Okay. All right, cool. Sometimes that's the case and just want to know who's all there. So again, appreciate you all being here. We're doing more and more Zoom meetings like this, of course, although we always prefer face-to-face. And hopefully we'll have a chance to do that soon, one of these days. And we actually prefer to have these types of meetings, these introductory type meetings, when there is not an active RFP, really just so we can get to know each other without the pressure and all the restrictions that kind of come along with that RFP situation. Nevertheless, we're excited about the chance to meet with you all today. I believe, Mark, we planned on an hour today, including Q&A. Is that still the plan? Okay, great. Well, like I said a minute ago, we like to meet with potential new clients during an off-season, whenever possible, because for us, it's really all about building long-term relationships. We're not so much interested in winning a bid per se, but making sure we're a good fit. We've just really found that if we have a good foundation to our relationship, we can always agree on a price and scope of work that makes sense for everyone. So we really focus a lot on this, especially in the beginning of our relationships. In fact, when Mark first contacted me and asked me for a quote, I had to politely explain to him that we actually aren't going to do that. We used to do that. We used to just drop off quotes. In fact, we used to drive around town dropping off quotes without even talking to anyone because we really thought it was just about the lowest price, and we just kind of had it's a numbers game attitude about business. But that was early in our careers, and as we gained more experience and more wisdom, we really came to realize that our most successful client relationships were based more on trust and mutual respect than on price. So the good news for today is that we do have a proposal to show you, including a price, a couple different prices, and we're excited to kind of walk you through that. So unless anyone has any questions or comments, we'll just get right into it. No? Okay, great. So I'm going to share my screen and roll through a short PowerPoint presentation. So bear with me while I pull up my screen here and get PowerPoint going. Okay, cool. Here we go. All right, fantastic. So we're proposing a 1-year agreement with a 2-year option. Our standard agreement's 3 years. We prefer 5, and we've signed 7-year agreements. And we've just found that it's mutually beneficial because to have multi-year contracts because of the cost and just the hassle of renewing agreements on an annual basis. But we do feel that starting out with a 1-year agreement is the best option for new clients because it gives us both an opportunity to get that 1 year, that first year under our belt, and then we can decide if it's going to be a long-term good fit or not, right? As you know, Woodland Mall and Kohl's are in an impressive retail district with an extremely high traffic count, especially during the holiday shopping season. Along with that comes significant risk and liability, especially with snow and ice management services. So selecting the right provider is absolutely critical. Now, we understand that you're not unhappy with your current provider, but at the same time, we know that nobody's perfect, and there are some specific areas of concern that we discussed with both Mark and Larry in our previous meetings. And you know what? We really just aren't ever interested in disparaging our competitors. We're really just trying to focus on ourselves and let you all make the best decision for your property. We're not perfect either, but we sure strive to do the right thing, and we absolutely step up when we fall short. So regarding Woodland Mall specifically, the mall has over 50 acres of plowable area and almost 5 acres of sidewalks. So this is very similar to other properties we manage, and it would be a real nice fit to our portfolio. What's unique about this property is that it's owned and managed by you folks. And, you know, we often work with property managers who aren't the owners, and that's fine too, but really appreciate it when we have the opportunity to work with the owners directly. And the situation at Kohl's, obviously you folks are the managers, and we recognize Kohl's as a major retailer in the U.S., and that would also expect world-class service. This property has over 5 acres of plowable area and over 11,000 square feet of sidewalk area. You know, we work with many of your competitors, some of the largest asset management firms in the retail sector, and we really see Preet as being potentially a great addition to our family. And one of the main things that's really important to us is reducing liability. Our existing clients really appreciate and value the focus that we place on reducing liability on their behalf. In fact, we believe that everything we do is for this purpose. It's our most important job. You know, anyone can plow snow, but putting together everything we've built takes enormous effort over many years. Our team, our structure, processes, equipment, technology, and everything else that helps us deliver that world-class service experience that you expect. Who we are. Well, I'm not going to go into detail here because Mark and I reviewed all this information in our meeting a couple weeks ago. And I'm happy to forward you the presentation that I gave to Mark at that time. And I think if you have a chance to go through that presentation, you'll see a company that's heavily invested in leading edge technologies, equipment, materials, and even in organizational leadership, structure, and those types of things, so that we're able to deliver consistent, high quality services. And that's what we're really all about. If we decide to move forward after today, we'll assemble what we call a snow response plan for both your properties. This plan outlines all the operational details so that during storms, we're executing a predetermined plan. We're not making up the plan on the fly. It's the who, what, when, how, where. It's the operational Bible, if you will. We also provide our clients with access to reports, photos, invoices, and even some real-time information during storms, which is really cool, through our client portal. Post-storm reporting and documentation is critical in reducing liability, and our systems are really tight in these areas. In fact, we've seen slip and fall claims completely disappear due to our documentation. Our pre-season and post-season processes are very comprehensive, and we have good processes in place for incidents because, let's face it, sometimes things happen. This colorful visual in front of you here is a 4-season timeline developed by an industry association, the Snow and Ice Management Association. So moving from left to right on your screen, you can see in green there the spring season, moving into the orangey summer season, the more reddish brown fall season, then blue in the winter. And the big idea here with this is that the snow and ice business has really become a 12-month business with activities each month of the year. And we really have adopted this philosophy in our company and as really a best practice. In fact, that same 12-month philosophy is a best practice for the buyers of snow services, and that's you. And so this screen is really showing the activities that apply to you folks each month of the year. And you can see in the early spring, the vendor qualification, the RFI process, moving into an RFP process, and then moving toward that contract award at the end of the summer or in the early fall. That's really key for us. All right, so this is the contract award date risk meter. It's best practice to award contracts early enough in the 12-month cycle to allow ample time for everything that follows the contract award. In the green zone, there are a number of pros and a few cons, but in the red zone, the cons outweigh the pros. In fact, in our company, as we move into that red zone, we'll just absolutely stop accepting new contracts because of the unnecessary burden that it places on our team and the potential for things to not be properly put in place before the snow flies. And if you stop and think about it, there's really no good reason under normal circumstances to make contract awards in the red zone. The same 12 months come around every year. It's never a surprise. So we just really appreciate and value our clients who follow these best practices because it makes everyone's life so much better. And we're very glad to be having this meeting in July versus October. So thank you all for that. The big unknown with snow is how much snow are we going to have this winter? And of course nobody knows. But we do have data. And we have some very important data that we're excited to show you here. And this data has a pretty significant effect on our pricing, and so that affects you. So what you're seeing here on the screen is the last 25 years, going back to 1996. These are seasonal snowfall totals for Grand Rapids every year. These are fictitious numbers in this demo. These are not real numbers. The average snowfall for Grand Rapids is about 3 times this. But the first thing that's obvious is that this is random. There are highs and lows, and there's really no trend. The second thing that you may notice is that there's a range. There's a high and a low. The high over the last 25 years is 56.4 inches in 2013, and the low in the last 25 years is 7.7 inches in 1996. We can also look at this data by month, and we can calculate an average. The average here is 27.45 inches, and we can see the average inches by month, which is great information and really helps us with our planning and with our pricing as well. We also have good data on events, which are not the same as inches. So if you thought about a 5-inch event or a 5-inch storm, that's one event. So is a dusting if it requires services. So events are not the same as inches, but obviously, you know, in heavier winters, there's going to be more events. So you can kind of see the same thing as far as the highs and lows, but in terms of number of events. And we can look at events by month. In fact, there's 27.04 events per season on average. And this doesn't always happen, but it's coincidentally the number of events being 27 on average is the same as the number of inches. We don't see that in other markets, but the numbers are what they are. Numbers don't lie, as they say. All right, and we can also take a look at events by depth, snow depth, and you know, probably not surprisingly, most of the events that we have, and this is true in almost every market, are below an inch. So by far, most of our events require ice management services, maybe some sidewalk clearing, but we're not plowing. Typically, we don't plow under an inch. But plowing decisions really depend on temperature and time of day and maybe even day of the week. But typically, under normal circumstances, we're plowing around an inch. So all of this weather data comes into play when we start to think about our services and the level of investment required based on a scope of work that we've agreed to. What you're looking at here is the 100% range that we talked about earlier on the previous slide. So we know that, you know, if we take that 25-year history and say that's a good range, you know, it's very likely, in fact, almost within 100% certainty that this upcoming winter will be within this range. So somewhere between 56 inches and 7.7 inches. We don't know where, but there's probably a pretty good chance, maybe even 100% chance that this upcoming winter is going to fall somewhere in this range. We just don't know where, right? So if we had provided you, and we won't provide you with this, but if we had provided you with a 1-year seasonal contract, fixed price, all-inclusive, unlimited number of inches, really we would have to price it at 56 inches to cover ourselves, because there's a chance we can have 56 inches this winter and we would need to get paid for that. Of course, you would never want to see that proposal, and neither would we. Instead, what we prefer to do is to propose an agreement with a ceiling and a floor so that we can reduce the range from 100% to something less than that. So this slide here shows a 90% range, which means there's a 90% probability that this winter's seasonal snowfall total will be somewhere between 50 inches and 10 inches. If we went to an 80% range, we'd be between 45 inches and 10 inches. If we went to a 70% range, our ceiling would be 41 inches and our floor would be 10.3 inches. And at the 60% range, we'd be between 37 inches and 11.7 inches. So the lower the range, the lower our seasonal price is. Now, are there any questions before I move on? Just stop me at any point here if you have a question along the way. I'm going to get into our proposal. So we're proposing a seasonal agreement with a floor and a ceiling, with a fixed seasonal price within a defined range, just like we saw in the previous slides. So if the seasonal snowfall exceeds the ceiling, a per inch premium applies. If the seasonal snowfall fails to reach the floor, a per inch refund applies. And we're happy to show you different ranges and prices. But the wider the range, the less likely we are to reach the ceiling or the floor. And like I said earlier, a range covering 100% would be the most expensive option, and we would probably never put that together. So our proposal today is for the 80% range, with a ceiling of 45.3 inches and a floor of 10.1 inches. Okay, at Woodland Mall, we have a fixed price seasonal of $363,000 due in 5 equal payments starting November 1. This includes all plowing, sidewalk clearing, and ice management services. It doesn't include hauling snow off-site, moving piles, shoveling roofs, things like that. The per inch amount is $13,000 and change if the snowfall total is outside of that 80% range that we talked about. Regarding Kohl's, we have a same structure, but with obviously smaller numbers. We have a fixed seasonal price of $31,000 and change and a per inch rate of $3,100. Now we also put together a per event, per inch with retainer option, and going to explain what that means to you. So this is a monthly retainer shown on the screen here for each of the properties. And what happens is, as we provide traditional per event services, we bill against the retainer. So the idea here is that you'll never pay more than the retainer amount until the services on a per event basis exceed that amount. So all the details of this are in the attached agreement. What we're striving for is the win-win. Here's the thing. We've been doing this a long time. And what we've learned is that traditional snow agreements are too risky. There's always a winner and a loser. And we used to play that game before we discovered a better way, a way that's fair for both of us. The limited seasonal retainer options create a win-win scenario because they offset the enormous investment that we have required for equipment, tools, supplies, materials, our staffing, onboarding training, our weather monitoring systems, and everything else we need to be fully prepared and ready to mobilize 24/7 all winter long on your behalf. You know, if you think about it, snow removal is an emergency service, not unlike the fire department. They're on call even when we don't need them. And so it's only reasonable that we would be receiving some element of payment to be on call for your benefit, even when there's no snow event to respond to. Our best clients really understand this, and we appreciate the partnership that we have with them. And like I said in the beginning, we just don't want to win a bid. That's not what we're here for today. We're looking for long-term relationships built on trust and mutual respect. If we decide to continue, we'll finalize the agreements, we'll start developing our snow response plan, initiate our new client onboarding process. We'll ask to conduct a trial billing to make sure our invoices and payments make it all the way through to the right person in the right format. And then we'll begin our preseason inspections and preseason protocols. And obviously, as we get closer to the winter, we'll start moving equipment to the property. So thank you so much. Love to take your questions at this time.